In this video, I will show you how to successfully complete a Nearpod assignment. Go to Canvas, locate a Nearpod. The Nearpods typically have this little film icon next to it. Click on the Nearpod and you will be redirected to the Nearpod site. Click here where it says Load. And it should autofill your name. If it doesn't, type in your first and last name as it appears when you register for this course. Click Join Lesson. And in this one, I'm going to show you the different aspects of Nearpod. So let's just look at a few things on this slide. So we do have a little thing over here that will read to you if it has a reader ability. And some slides have this and others do not. So if we would wanted to advance to the next slide, we would click on the blue arrow on the right. If we wanted to go back, we would click on the blue arrow on the left. The other thing to note on this slide is at the bottom, there is a blue circle with an arrow and there is a time. And this time tells you that it's been narrated. So anytime there's narration, listen to it. This is the same as attending like lecture in person. So, or if you're wanting to review these slides for a test or quiz, this is pretty much the same content that I covered in an in-person lecture. So if you click on this, you're going to hear me speaking. This slide is narrated. So then you can have that also as another study resource. To earn all of your Nearpod points, most Nearpods are graded. You need to answer all of the questions as they appear embedded in the Nearpod. So you're probably going to be prompted in just a minute with a question that's going to pop up. So you're going to answer that question, and then you're going to click on the blue arrow on the right to advance to the next slide. So here's some more information. If you registered for an in-person lecture, then we have what are called live Nearpods. These are embedded in the Canvas module. These can only be completed during lecture, and I am the one that controls the pace of those. You can't advance without me advancing. However, if you registered for an online section or you're reviewing what are called the student paced Nearpods, which are the exact same thing as the live ones, it's just switched over to student paced, then you are in control and you can click on the next slide and do the activities as review or practice. So let's get to some details about Nearpods. They are untimed, so you have as much time as you want. You have unlimited attempts before the due date. So once the due date is passed, you need to have had it done. And if you didn't do it before the due date, you would receive a 0. You can stop and start the Nearpods as many times as you want. So for example, the syllabus Nearpod is pretty long. And so you're like, I want to listen to part of this and then come back later. You can do that and it will save your progress as long as you use the same computer and the same browser for each attempt. If you go to a different computer, so let's say you started it at home and then you went over to your work computer and you tried to finish it, it would act like you had started over. It's not recognizing you as the same person. So that can be a little frustrating. So just to kind of upfront, if you're going to start and stop, you need to use the same computer and the same browser if you want your work saved. Otherwise, you have to start all over. If you do click on the Nearpod after the due date, which I do recommend, again, using these as a resource for studying, if it's after the due date, Canvas will automatically tag it as late. So if you did it on time, you're just using as review, or you did it on time and you just needed to go back in and check something, and you see that late notification, please just ignore it. Every time you click in after that due date, it will say late, and just disregard. It's not late. As long as you earned your points, it's not late. All right, so here is kind of an example of a introductory slide. So this is kind of getting into a typical chapter. So here we would have the typical chapter slide, and then as you can note here, we have this one is narrated, and it's 42 seconds, so it kind of gives you an idea of how long that is. And to advance, we would click on the arrow on the right. So what are these Nearpods? Why are we using them? What is this? So Nearpod is used to encourage participation, and that can be either online or in person, and to help you learn the lecture material. It is similar to being in an in-person class if you're taking this online. And if you're in an in-person class, it is going to be available for study purposes. This is the information that I use for the lecture quizzes and exams. So this is your primary resource that you're going to use. As you're going through the Nearpods, you're going to notice that there are highlighted and often bolded words. Those are the words that you're going to fill in with the corresponding note packet. So that note packet or lecture packet or lecture notes or student worksheet, they're all the same thing, are going to be located within the Canvas site. If your course has a packet for sale in the bookstore that's for lecture, then it would also correspond with that. So some courses have that and others do not. So here's a typical slide of a lecture, and here we can see this word answers is both bolded and highlighted. So this is the word that you would fill in with those corresponding lecture notes. Those lecture notes, along with this Nearpod, is the material for the lecture. So I cannot stress enough, this is the content that you need to be studying. So you listen to the slide, you fill in the blanks, and then you study that for tests and quizzes. In the narrated portion, I have provided analogies and examples and all kinds of things. So it really is going to give you a full-rounded explanation of each topic. All right, so what are the different kinds of activities that you might encounter as you're going through the Nearpods? So you might have a little quiz question that pops up. These are, again, not timed. You might have what's called an open-ended question, which might say things like, what is biology? We'll have click and drag questions. For those, you're going to match the boxes together. So there'll be all these boxes, and you often get to that, like, what am I supposed to do with this? So the matching, you're going to click the boxes. The click and drag, you're going to drag it over to the right spot and put it in whatever the instructions say. There are often going to be videos, and they'll have little questions that pop up like this video, and they often have little blue circles at the bottom. Do not skip the questions. That is part of your participation points. So if you skip the questions, you're not going to earn all of your points. And if you miss a question, it will actually, meaning you got it wrong, you can actually go back and change your answer, which I'll show you all of these on the next few slides. So here's a video, and what we can see is there's 1, 2, 3 embedded questions. So you should listen to the entire video. Don't just skip to the questions, listen to the video, and then answer the questions as they correspond. So in a question like this, we hit the white arrow on the left, and if you're someone that likes closed caption, and if it has it, you can also add that. And this is what we again call an open-ended question. So you would type in your answer. So this is what is the first step in the scientific method. You would type in your answer. So we're going to say observations. And I grade those. So these are not auto-graded. These are going to be graded based on what I see after you've completed it. So you click submit, and then it says continue playing, and the videos continue to play. So here we're going to look at the last question. So again, listen to all of the video. Don't skip ahead.
Make them look at a problem in a new way.
Question coming. So let's say we answered that question incorrect. So this is, what is the last step in the scientific method? So let's say we thought it was prediction, and we click submit, and we got it wrong. Uh-oh. So what you can do, because you want to get all your points, is you can actually back the video up again. So back it up just a little bit, hit play.
Problem in a new way.
And it will give you the question again. And what is the last step in the scientific method? It is conclusion. We click submit. Hooray, we got it right. And now we have all of our points, and we learned right then what we did wrong. So we're studying the right thing instead of the wrong thing. And then you could click continue playing, and it will play the rest of the video. So here's an example of an open-ended question. What is the purpose of the scientific method? You would fill in your answer, click submit, and again, click on that blue arrow on the right. Here's an example of a click and drag. So the click and drag are going to have varied instructions, so make sure you read instructions. This one says, click and drag the steps of the scientific method in the correct order. So you can roll up those instructions, and if you know the first one, which would be observations, you just click it and drag it to the right spot. And you would continue until all of them are done. And then again, you would click submit. These are again ones that I grade manually after you've submitted it. So we click submit and we go to the next question. This is one of the matching ones. These are the ones that really confuse you. So you're like, what am I supposed to do with all these boxes? So what I have are boxes of matching pairs. So you would match them up. So prediction is an if-then statement. So they're green and they kind of fade so that you know that those are done. And I'm going to continue and show you if I get one wrong. So let's do this one. So it'll say, nope, those two don't match. And we would just keep going until we're all done and they're all matched correctly. Again, so then you know that you have them correct and you have as many attempts as you want. So again, click on the blue arrow. Here's an example of a quiz question. So it says, step in the scientific method that creates graphs and tables. That's going to be a result. So again, we're going to click hopefully the right answer and click submit. If we hit the wrong answer, click submit. Then again, it will tell us what the right answer is, but we want to make sure that we get the right answer. So it is result, but I did that on purpose so that you can kind of see what happens if you get it incorrect, but it does show you the correct answer. All right, so let's talk about how I grade Nearpods. So Nearpods are a completion grade, so you have to get 100% completion to earn all of your points. I will deduct 0.1 a tenth, which is hardly any points, for each incorrect answer. And as you've just seen, you can go back and correct them. So there's no reason why you shouldn't get all of your points correct. The only ones that you might get incorrect is if you had an open-ended or a click and drag and you just weren't sure. So every time you click on the Nearpod, so let's say you are on Canvas and you click on it, you're like, oh, I'm just kind of playing around to see what this Nearpod is. It will show it as submitted in Canvas. And then you kind of panic and like, I didn't do anything. All I did was click it. I didn't actually complete anything. That's fine. So submitted is not the same as completed. Submitted just means you clicked on it. Completed means you're all done. So you're going to know when you're all done, when you've answered all the questions and you've done all the activities. And you can go into Canvas and it will show you your percent completion. You have to get to 100% for it to be done. And if you want all of your points, you have to get them correct. Again, I deduct that 0.1 for each incorrect answer. And then I have to manually grade these. So whatever the due date is for your course, I typically have them graded within 24 hours of the due date, if not sooner. So if you're panicking going, I don't know if I did or I didn't know if it's completed, go to Canvas, look at the completion percentage. If it's 100% completed, excellent. And then I will go in and grade them. If there's an issue, I will leave you a message in Canvas in this assignment that tells you what you did wrong so you don't repeat that for future assignments. So again, we're going to click on our blue arrow. We're just going to keep progressing through the Canvas. So how do we know when we're done? It's like, how do I know if it's really done? You would keep going until you can't click on the blue arrow anymore, which we're not quite there yet. We're going to be there shortly. And you'll see a slide that says tap to start over. So that means you're done. You can also use this navigator at the bottom. And so now you can see all of the slides that we've gone over. And if you see, like I've highlighted it, it'll show you what slide you're on. So we can also move these so that we're almost to the end, yay. So it'll show you, that was the slide we just did, this is the slide we're on. So it'll show you when we get to the end. So the next slide is going to be that slide that says tap to start over. So that means you're all done. And if you're like, oh, I skipped something, I didn't see this, purpose of Nearpod slide, you can always go back and do it, which is totally fine. So I'm going to collapse that. You can also, if you like this, you can use this notes feature that allows you to actually take notes within Nearpod if you would like to do that. So once you're all done and you're sure that you've completed all the embedded activities, you're going to click that right arrow And we get to the slide that says tap to start over. So that means we are all done as long as you've done everything that was within the activities. So I hope that was helpful on how to complete a Nearpod.